Hey guys, I'm going to help you out with lesson 32's homework. Here we go. We're going to start off with number 1, and it says you can model with the number line or the arrow way. I'm just going to show you the way that my kids mostly did it today in class. So it's 6 3/5 minus minus 1/5. So I just say 3/5 minus 1/5, and I get 6 2/5. These are super easy, the first two. So we have 4 9/12 minus 4 7/12, which is just going to give you 4 2/12 because you just subtract fractions. Here, though, we can't just subtract the fractions because I can't say 1/4 minus 3/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decompose 3/4 into 1/4 and 2/4, which is fine because all I did was change the way it was written. So now I'm going to rewrite the equation as 7 1/4 minus 1/4 minus 2/4. So I broke up that 3/4 to make it easier to subtract. Well, 7 1/4 minus 1/4 is just 7, and then 7 minus 2/4 I know is 6 2/4. Now that last part probably went a little fast, and we've done that before where if you have a whole number and you're subtracting a fraction, I can turn that into 6 4/4, and then the 4/4 minus the 2/4 give you the 2/4, and then you have your 6. Really, or you could just count back. I have 7 and I'm taking away 2/4, so it'd be 6 3/4 and then 6 2/4. Whichever way you want to look at that. Okay, same thing here. I can't subtract 5/8, so I'm going to break it down into 3/8 and 2/8, and I chose 3/8 because it's 8 3/8 is how it's starting. So I'm going to break it down into 8 3/8 minus 3/8 minus 2/8. So all I did was break up that 5/8, and after 8 3/8 minus 3/8 is going to be 8. 8 minus 2/8, if I count back 2/8, is going to be 7 6/8 as your final answer. So my final answer is 7 6/8. Alright, let's look down at number 2. This is saying you have to use the number line or the arrow way. We're just going to keep decomposing what you're subtracting to make it easier on us. And I'm going to cross out some that we don't need to do. And let's look at B. We have 2 1/3 minus 2/3. Well, I'm going to break down that 2/3 into 1/3 and 1/3 just to make it easier to subtract. So my new equation is 2 1/3 minus 1/3 minus 1/3. And when I do that, 2 1/3 minus 1/3 will just be 2. And then I subtract the last third. And if I count back, I'll end up with 1 2/3. Okay, let's look at C. We have 4 1/6 minus 4/6. I'm going to break 4/6 into 1/6 and 3/6 because my first number has 1/6 in it, and I want to make it easier to subtract. That's the whole point of this. So I'm going to say 4 1/6 minus 1/6 minus 3/6. 4 1/6 minus 1/6 is 4. And then I'm going to subtract the 3/6, and I'm going to be at the next whole number down, which is 3. I'm going to count down 3/6 to get 3/6, which is left. So 3 3/6. Okay, 3 3/6 minus 5/6. We're going to break down 5/6 into 3/6 and 2/6 to make it easier to subtract. So I'm going to say 3 3/6 minus 3/6 minus 2/6. And 3 3/6 minus 3/6 is going to be 3. Take out that last 2/6 and I'll get 2 4/6. Alright, next page. Let's cross out a few. Let's cross out a few that we don't need to do. Cross out I and J. Alright, let's start with E. 9 3/8 minus 7/8. I'm going to break down 7/8 to make it easier to subtract. I'm going to break it down into 3/8 because I want to say 9 minus the 3/8 to get rid of that 3/8. So 3/8 and 4/8. So my new equation is 9 and 3/8 minus 3/8 minus 4/8. Well, the 3/8 subtract from each other just to give you 9, and 9 minus 4/8 will be 8 4/8 because it'll be one whole number down, and if I count down from 8/8 4 times, I'll get 4/8. Okay, same thing here. 6/10, I'm going to split into 1/10 and 5/10 because I have 7 and 1/10. Excuse me, and I want to take away that 1/10. So my new equation is 7 and 1/10 minus 1/10 minus 5/10. So I end up with 7 minus 5/10, which will be 6 and 5/10. Alright, G, we have 10 and 1/8 minus 5/8. So we're going to split up my 5/8 into 1/8 and 4/8. And I always split it the way that makes it easiest to subtract. So I'm going to split it into whatever's attached to that first whole number. So 10 and 1/8 minus that 1/8 minus another 4/8 will give me 10 minus 4/8, which will leave me with one whole number less, which is 9 and 4/8. Alright, H, we're going to break down that 7/12 into 4/12 and 3/12. And so my new equation will be 9 and 4/12 minus 4/12 minus 3/12, which will leave me with 9 minus 3/12, which will give me 8 and 9/12. Alrighty, let's go on down to the last section and cross out what we don't need to do. Looks like we can cross out B, D, and F. A has been done for us, so let's look at C. It says 7 and 1/8 minus 3/8. And it's saying we could decompose the whole number. You can do that way if that helps you. I feel like the whole equation kind of messes with my students' heads, so we're going to keep doing the way that we have been with breaking down the number that you're subtracting. So I'm going to say 7 and 1/8 minus 3/8, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down that 3/8 into 1/8 and 2/8 because I want that 1/8 that's attached to the 7 to go away to make it easier to subtract. So we're going to decompose 3/8 into 1/8 and 2/8. So really my equation is 7 and 1/8 minus 1/8 minus 2/8. And so I'll end up with 7 minus 2/8, which is 6 and 4/8. I'm sorry, 6 and 6/8. Because 8/8 minus 2/8 will give you 6/8. Alright, we have 6 and 3/10 minus 7/10. So we're going to break up 7/10 into 3/10 and 4/10. So my new equation is 6 and 3/10 minus 3/10 minus 4/10. When I do that, I'll get 6 minus 4/10 because those both 3/10 go away. And I'll end up with 5 and 6/10 as my final answer. Alright, if you have questions, let me know.